Thank you there, Secretary. Now, the Eastern Cape government has formed a joint task team with liquor industry representatives to address the COVID-19 challenges in that province. A meeting was held between governmental and industrial role players to look at the issue of non-compliance to lockdown regulations by liquor outlets as well as patrons, of course. At the meeting, the liquor industry committed to train and deploy 80 community patrollers in 8 police stations in the COVID-19 hotspots areas in the province to assist in monitoring compliance. To discuss this further, we're joined by Lucky Ntimane from the National Liquor Council. Lucky, thank you very much for joining us, Bafo. Look, the Eastern Cape, we just saw now that package from Segri Chachi. The Western Cape is feeling it, in particular the Garden Route area. Wine tasting out of the window because of COVID-19. From the Liquor National Council, you guys must be worried because this is a business where in December you're expecting to make some money from the industry, in particular an industry that has suffered because of COVID-19.
Good afternoon, Babs Tole. Yes, indeed, we are concerned by the toll that COVID-19 is having on the ground in the industry. But equally important also is to understand that because we see ourselves as citizens of the country before we're business people, we committed ourselves to ensuring that we partner with the government of the Eastern Cape to ensure that we come up with solutions that will mitigate against the resurgence or the further spread of the COVID-19 in the province. Like you rightfully said in your introduction, what we have done is we have formed a task team with the provincial government that will look at ways and means under which we can address issues that lend themselves towards this pandemic being seen as a super spreader, most especially amongst our liquor traders, be it taverns, bottle stores and restaurants. So we welcome the leadership shown by the Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, in that province to partner with an industry. And we have committed 30 million rand towards medical supplies in that province. And like also you have rightfully said with regards to the community patrols, we have further invested 5 million rand in that space, with 80 of those patrols being in the Eastern Cape in partnership with SABC, led by General Nchinga and General Patekile, to ensure that we address this issue on the ground because it is obvious of concern to us and we really want to work with the government of the Eastern Cape to ensure that we deal with this matter.
Well, Ntimane, I mean, it's no secret that, a lot of people have attributed the numbers growing of COVID-19. A lot of people saying when alcohol was relaxed, the restrictions thereof, that's when the numbers came up. They say there's a correlation there. Let me put it that way. In the same breath, whilst it is business, as you're rightfully saying as well, you also have responsibility, and you're rightfully saying you're doing that. But obviously then comes into the patrons. The tubby souls who wake up in the morning, goes and buys his beverage of choice, and after a couple of tipples forgets about the mask, forgets about the social distancing. What is it? Is it a case of we're tired, we are bored about the pandemic fatigue? As an industry, are you not concerned, are you not worried as well that these are your patrons that are getting sick and going to the very clinics where the nurses are saying we don't have enough PPEs, we can't treat them?
I can safely say that as an industry, we're not suffering from any COVID fatigue, hence our support to the province. We understand that some of the patrons or even liquor traders might be maybe feeling that fatigue, but we are encouraging them to take up this fight. We cannot afford to relax now, especially going towards the festive season, which is a critical time, not just for the liquor industry, but for everyone, people wanting to be with their families, as we understand that people are making their way from Gauteng, from the Western Cape, into the Eastern Cape. So we are concerned about the potential that this might have, in further spreading the COVID-19 in the province. But then we are saying that, let's work together. Let's ensure that as liquor traders, we make sure that people that come into our premises, they wash their hands, they're sanitized, and also they're wearing masks, upon which we will not be able to service those patrons if they don't comply with those basic COVID-19 regulations. Importantly as well is to comply with the curfew, because it's there for the reason we need to come together and support government in its efforts to ensure that we deal with this matter decisively of COVID-19, because it is a problem. If we don't do anything about it, we might be left, with a situation where it will be difficult for us, to reverse the gains that the industry has accumulated over the past 2 months where we've been allowed to open.
And the knock-on effect thereafter, Mr. Ntimane, is that then your tourism industry suffers, because once you close down your liquor outlets, then people who are running B&Bs, who have not had any business throughout the year, I'm not going to go to somewhere where my wife cannot get a bottle of wine, for example. The knock-on effect is big.
Yes, we fully understand the knock-on effect. Hence, we are calling all our patrons, the liquor traders, and also community at large to come together to ensure that ours is to really comply with the COVID-19 regulations. They're not as difficult, to follow. We understand that the fatigue might have set in, but we're then saying, let's really adjust ourselves. Let's come together, like the president has said, to ensure that, we confront this pandemic together. The festive season is a time for joy. Let us also continue to enjoy liquor responsibly, but also respecting, people that do not consume liquor in how we behave ourselves, but also ensuring that we take care of our health sector in how we behave ourselves, how we conduct ourselves as we enjoy this liquor responsibly. Like I said earlier in the beginning of this interview, that the commitment that we've made towards the health sector in the Eastern Cape of 30 million rand is not just money, but it's also the efforts that we're putting behind by committing liquor traders to be the champions in the fight against COVID-19, and those that will encourage their patrons to make sure that not only do they comply when they're at taverns, but when they get home, they continue their behavior. That is going to push the positive, almost the ambition towards a free COVID-19 in the province of the Eastern Cape and beyond.
Yeah, let's touch base maybe what you've just said as well. The 80 community patrollers that you'll be placing with the police stations and in various police stations, particularly in the Eastern Cape. A lot of people would say, police are overstretched as well. They cannot be patrolling every street, every hour, shutting down a shebeen. What powers will be given to those patrollers? Because as you said as well, you've got the power to shut down your customers or your clients who you provide liquor to if they don't shut down on time with regards to the curfew. What powers would the patrollers, or what would you expect these community patrollers to do for you in aiding this, in particular with the shutting down on time before curfews and ensuring that people wear masks when entering places of business?
So the patrollers are really a support structure to SABC, as well as the Eastern Cape Liquor Board on the ground. So their powers are limited towards reporting and ensuring compliance. So the compliance is not just around the COVID-19, but also they'll look at an issue of responsible trading and also consumption, and also look at an important issue of pedestrian road safety, because we know that some of the issues that arise, especially towards the peak season, is a pedestrian safety. So there will be, their approach is almost a three-pronged. It's COVID-19 compliance, it's around pedestrian safety, as well as responsible consumption and trading of alcohol.
Yeah.
But their powers are limited towards just reporting and ensuring compliance, working hand in hand with the Eastern Cape Liquor Board, as well as the provincial SABC. So this week, those patrollers that have been identified have undergone training under the watchful eye of the provincial SABC, and from the 4th of December, they will be unleashed for over a period of 2 months to make sure that they bring about positive change in the Eastern Cape.
Lucky, we're running out of time, but quickly I have to ask you this one. 16 days of activism against the abuse of women and children. Obviously, a lot of people, once again, saying, look, maybe there shouldn't be alcohol. What are we doing in as far as campaigns around that? Because once again, it's easy to point fingers and say, yeah, you guys should be doing much more.
This is an important matter that the industry has taken up, and I would like to commend Distel under the leadership of Richard and Vim, who invested over 5 million rand towards Tavern Dialogues, a program that looked at addressing issues of gender-based violence across 4 key provinces: Gauteng, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, as well as the Eastern Cape, where taverns were targeted and men were engaged on societal factors that lend themselves towards issues of gender-based violence and femicide. And this program was well received, and it reached over 1,080 men across these 4 provinces who committed themselves through the tavern forums that were created in these environments to being champions in the fight against gender-based violence in their communities. So we are grateful to Distel for their support, and we continue to work together with the industry to make sure that we address the issue of gender-based violence as a matter that should be addressed.
Lucky Ntimane from the National Liquor Council, thank you indeed for speaking to us. A great conversation, always a good time when I have to chat with you, in particular with the things that a lot of people, sometimes it's easy to point fingers and say liquor, 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 but there are people like yourself who are saying that you're contributing 30 million towards making sure that your PPEs, in particular in the Eastern Cape, who are experiencing what you've heard already as the second wave of COVID-19, as well as those patrollers, will be helping out the police stations, compliance, making sure that people who consume liquor are aided. Thank you very much there, Lucky Ntimane, for speaking to us.